Hello, time for another Man in Gray book review. Today's book is The Judge's House by Georges Simenon, translated from French by Howard Curtis. This book was originally published in French in 1940. This reprint and new translation dates from 2015, and it's published by Penguin Books. It's 160 pages. This is volume number 21 in Simenon's Inspector Maigret mystery series. Inspector Maigret is usually based in Paris, where he's one of the major detectives and quite famous. But in this book, there's a change of pace. Maigret has done something, and we're not told what, but he's done something to upset his boss, and so he's been sent into exile. He's been transferred to the small, sleepy seaside town of Luçon, and where for the last 3 months he's been bored out of his skull because nothing important has happened. But all that changes late one evening when in the hotel where Maigret's eating, a very talkative older woman shows up and tells him that there's a dead body in the house of a retired judge in a little tiny village about 18 miles away, and the body's been there for 2 days. But that evening, the tide is going to reach its high point, and she believes, and her husband believes, that the judge is going to drag the body out into the ocean. And so he has to come over there and catch him in the act. Well, Maigret doesn't know what to believe here. Is this woman just a nut, or is there something to it? But he's kind of bored and doesn't have anything better to do, so he grabs a taxi and goes to this little town, again, about 18 miles away. And when he gets there, it's pitch dark, it's drizzling and foggy, and he runs into the woman's husband, who's waiting for him on a bridge. And they form kind of an impromptu stakeout. And sure enough, eventually, the retired judge is seen dragging an object out toward the water. And when they get there, they realize it's a body that's been wrapped up in coal sacks. So Maigret stops him, and far from being shocked or upset, the retired judge is completely calm and unflappable. The two of them drag the body back into the judge's house. The judge invites him in and serves him some expensive wine and tells him that he doesn't know who this dead person is, how he died, or why he's in his house. Pleads complete ignorance of the whole thing. Eventually, Maigret wakes up the other police officials in the area. They find the body is dead because he was smashed in the back of the head with a blunt object, and nobody seems to know who he is. As Maigret starts to investigate, he finds the judge has a kind of an oddball family. His wife has left him, but still shows up from time to time. He has a daughter who in the old days would have been called a nymphomaniac. She likes to sleep with just about everybody in the village, all the guys in the village, most of whom are fishermen, and to the point where the judge locks her in her bedroom at night to try to keep these guys out of her bed. And he also has an estranged son who has a violent temper, and and even though the judge is, obviously from a wealthy family, a wealthy background, the son makes his living as an oyster or a mussel collector, mussel farmer, the shellfish, like most of the people around him. So the son has a, so the son has embraced a working class background, while the father is upper class. The more Maigret starts to investigate this crime, the more baffling it becomes. It turns out the victim showed up in town just a couple of days before his death. Very mysterious. Nobody seems to know anything about him. And the son of the judge has got it in for this other oyster or mussel farmer who apparently was the last person that his sister slept with. So it becomes increasingly complex and convoluted, but far from upsetting Maigret, he loves this. He loves the complexity of it, and he also knows that if he's able to crack this difficult case, the publicity will restore him in popularity, and he'll be invited back to Paris. It's sort of a change of pace, as I said, for Inspector Maigret novels, because he's not with his usual team of investigators and police sergeants and so forth. He's basically out on his own, or in this podunk little town out in the middle of nowhere with people he doesn't really know anything about. So he's kind of on his own puzzling out this story. Now, if you've never read one of Simenon's Maigret novels before, these are not thriller novels. There's not explosions or chase scenes or gunplay. And they're not like Sherlock Holmes stories either. Maigret doesn't go around with a magnifying glass looking at fingerprints and stuff like that. If I had to compare him, Inspector Maigret, to another detective, he was probably closest to the Father Brown character created by G.K. Chesterton in the early 20th century, the priest who becomes a amateur detective. Maigret, in the same way, solves cases in the same way that Father Brown did, mainly by carefully observing the people in the area and using his knowledge of human nature and human psychology to ferret out who the killer is. So these are kind of literary, psychological mysteries rather than more traditional American type action stories. But they're very interesting. This is one of the longer, even though it's only 160 pages, it's one of the longer Maigret novels. So he kind of stretches out a little bit and tells you more about the background of this town and the people there and the various characters, all of which are drawn with, 3 dimensions. They're all very interesting. One of Simenon's great strengths was his ability to create really believable characters. And you get kind of a subtle commentary on the class distinctions in French society, because you've got obviously the retired judge and his friends who are all from this kind of wealthy aristocratic background. You have the muscle and the farmers and the fishermen who are working class, and then you've got the police people who are kind of middle class. And so they all have to interact with each other in this story. So if you've never read a Maigret novel before, this one is certainly interesting. It's not typical of Maigret. If you're a Maigret fan, I'm sure you'll enjoy this. So it's, again, one of over about 70 of these novels that he wrote. It's one of the kind of the middle period done in the 1940s. The book is The Judge's House. The author is Georges Simenon. This has been another Man in Gray book review. Thanks for watching.